let's get into it here. We got a lot to talk about tonight, as always, but we have to start off with the Cy Young Awards. I mean, this is, hey, I always love when we get the Cy Young Awards revealed. No surprise here. No surprise. I feel like all the awards this year, they're pretty straightforward. There's not really a ton of debate on the awards this year, in my opinion. Sure, maybe you could have debated, the manager of the year. You had Brandon Hyde, Shoemaker as well, winning the managers of the year. But Cy Young, I think these are pretty straightforward, honestly. No debate, really. Garrett Cole taking it in the American League. Blake Snell in the National League. Here are the results. Garrett Cole, unanimous, getting every single first place vote. Sonny Gray coming in second, followed by Kevin Gausman. And in the National League, Blake Snell getting 28 first place votes. And Logan Webb and Zach Gallen each got a first place vote. But Logan Webb overall coming in second. Zach Gallen coming in third. Spencer Strider coming in fourth. I think Spencer Strider is going to be my pick for Cy Young next year. I think I'm going to be leaning towards him in the American League. Honestly, I could see Garrett Cole winning another one next year, to be completely honest with you. Sure, maybe some of these other guys, maybe see Kirby really take a step forward next year. Maybe Gausman. I think Gausman was my pick for the American League this year. Fell a little bit short, but I could maybe see him take a run at it for next year. But honestly, if you went with Garrett Cole for next year, I wouldn't blame you. I honestly think he's pretty well positioned to maybe win another one. So we'll have to see. But when it comes to Blake Snell, there is a little bit of history involved with Blake Snell. This was Garrett Cole's first Cy Young Award. I think there was an argument for Garrett Cole to win it in 2019. Justin Verlander getting it. Remember Garrett Cole after getting traded to the Astros. Garrett Cole was on such a run that year. I believe it was from May until the end of the season. He was just incredible that year. To me, you could have gone with either Verlander or Cole, but there was definitely an argument for Cole that year, but this is his first Cy Young. As for Snell, he now joins a pretty small list of pitchers to win the award in both the American League and the National League. You got Roger Clemens. Remember, the Astros were in the National League at one point. Remember that. And so he won it with the Astros in 2004 and with the Red Sox, with the Red Sox as well, winning 7 Cy Young Awards. I think he won. Did he win one with the Yankees? I can't remember if he won one with the Yankees. Won plenty of awards, though. But as well as him, you got Max Scherzer, Tigers and the Nationals, Roy Halladay, Phillies and the Blue Jays, Randy Johnson, Mariners, and the D-backs. Was it with the D-backs? Yeah, it was with the D-backs. And Pedro Martinez, obviously. And then Gaylord Perry. All right. So not a whole lot of guys to win the award in both leagues. So, hey, pretty good company there. It's a second Cy Young, winning it with the Rays. What was it? 2018, I believe he won the award. So, hey, no surprise here when it comes to the voting. No surprise. We have a super chat coming in. CJ, how you doing? Next year, Cy Young, Max Fried. Hey, I got to be honest. I just said Spencer Strider. I'm going to stick with Strider, honestly. I think Strider, with the ability that he has to rack up the strikeouts, I just think this guy, I think, when it came to the Braves defense this year, I do think that held him back a little bit. And I think if he really works in another pitch, I do think Strider, it's crazy how good he is now. And if he gets another pitch involved, man, that guy could be just nasty. Strider is going to be my pick for next year. So here we go. But let's transition here. Cy Young Awards, those are done. And we got the MVPs coming up next. And like I said, don't forget, I'm going to be posting a video on MVP snubs. So look out for that. But let's talk a little Blake Snell. And we got a few teams jumping into the mix when it comes to Blake Snell. The Padres, interested in bringing him back. The Dodgers, the Giants, all interested. So, National League West teams, we haven't seen too much about Blake Snell as of right now, but no surprise to see these teams jumping in the mix, right? Obviously, the Padres, I think they would love to keep Blake Snell. The Dodgers really need pitching. The Giants, I think, could use another pitcher there. So obviously he's been familiar with the National League West. So no brainers there. I personally think when it comes to the Giants, I don't know. I feel like the Giants are more in this to maybe try and drive up the price, right? That's the one thing the Giants, they can do, right? You know they have a lot of money to spend, and if they want to try and prevent the Padres or the Dodgers from making a run, I could see the Giants really throwing some money at some pitchers out there or other players just to try and drive up the price, especially if the Padres and the Dodgers are involved. Listen, if you're the Giants, you would love Blake Snell to get the heck out of that division. So, you know, that they could make it pretty tough for the Padres as well as the Dodgers, right? We'll talk about Yamamoto here in a little bit, but the Giants, they could definitely cause some headaches when it comes to these other teams, right, trying to sign, especially in division like the Padres and the Dodgers. So stay tuned for that. But I personally just don't think they go after Blake Snell. It's just not really in their history to really go after pitchers that are going to take a lot of money to sign. Now, I could see the Dodgers having some legitimate interest. They definitely need some pitching. I could see that. And obviously the Padres, you know, hey, just want to Cy Young with you this year. He was really good for you. So, you know, the problem with the Padres, though, is they want to cut payroll. So I'm not sure how serious the interest is. Again, they would love to have him back, but I'm not sure what they're thinking of financially. So out of these three teams, I would think the Dodgers probably have the best shot. But I personally think Blake Snell ends up outside the National League West. Now, you know, I picked the Cubs in my free agent predictions, but with the Cubs, there have been reports that they might not be willing to spend the big bucks on pitching, and they're looking more for the position players. I'm not sure. I don't know what to think about that. To me, I feel like the Cubs could use another pitcher. I don't see why the Cubs couldn't go after, you know, one of these bigger position players on the market as well as a pitcher, right? Especially now that Stroman is in free agency. Could they just bring him back? I don't know. But I personally think Blake Snell ends up signing outside the National League West. We will have to see. But one team that is probably not going to be involved on Blake Snell are the Philadelphia Phillies. And I believe this was reported, it was either by Rosenthal, or actually, who wrote this article? I think it was Rosenthal. It was Jason Stark. I apologize. Jason Stark. Got to give him the credit here. And he says here that the Phillies are more lukewarm on Blake Snell, that his walk rate and his inconsistencies year in and year out are the main reason why they're not so high on him, whereas Nola, which is kind of funny because Nola had an up and down year, but for the most part, Nola has been that consistent workhorse for the Phillies. So I can understand the reasoning behind that, where Snell goes on like these incredible runs, right? And then he kind of runs into some trouble. So I can see the Phillies maybe not being as enamored with that. You know, could they turn their attention to someone that would probably cost a little less, like a Sonny Gray? There has even been some possibilities of maybe them being intrigued with Yamamoto. That doesn't seem very likely, but his name has been floating around with the Phillies. We'll get to him in a little bit. But speaking of Blake Snell, there is a little something out there from Mr. Bob Nightingale, saying that he would love to go to his hometown team, the Mariners, according to his sources. However, the Mariners don't really need pitching. That's the only problem, right? Now, could you maybe make the argument? Remember we talked about Yamamoto the other night. Could you maybe, if you are the Mariners, right? Remember we talked about how Yamamoto could be on the Mariners' radar if they weren't able to land him. Could you go after Blake Snell, sign him to a pretty big contract? It's most likely what it's going to take to get him. And then maybe you could trade one of these pitchers that are in the rotation. Sign Snell, and then maybe go see if you can get someone for Bryce Miller. Maybe even Logan Gilbert, who's going to cost a lot. So I could maybe see the Mariners maybe going with that sort of a strategy. Probably not. It doesn't seem like something they would do. And even with Yamamoto, I'm not sure if they're really going to spend the big bucks for one of these guys. I don't know. Just doesn't seem like something they would do. But you never know. There's a first time for everything. Maybe they do end up doing it. In other news, Mike Ford was designated for assignment. I saw some people pretty surprised about that. Mike Ford was not all that bad about, last year. He had his moments. And, looking at his numbers overall, I know I'm kind of transitioning away from Blake Snell here. Bear with me. But Mike Ford, he wasn't horrible last year. Low batting average, low on base, but the slugging was pretty good with him at 475, 16 homers, 34 RBIs. I believe, with him, though, I can see where the Mariners weren't really interested because he was more of that platoon kind of a guy. He was much better against the lefties. And, at least batting average wise, where you look at very small sample size, but when it came to the righties, he just didn't hit consistently against them. He brought the power against them, but he definitely had more of, again, a very small sample size against the lefties, but you can clearly see hitting 368. He had 7 hits over 19 at bats, but against the righties, he just was either, power or nothing against them. So I could see where maybe this means for the Mariners, maybe they're looking for a DH that they can, be comfortable with going up, against whoever is throwing, lefty or righty. And someone that is a bit more established, like JD Martinez. That was a guy that I predicted for the Mariners. I could see someone like JD Martinez. Maybe you could do someone like Adam Duvall. I could see something like that. So Mike Ford off the Mariners, designated for assignment. But anyway, back to Blake Snell. Again, I don't see the Mariners really going after Blake Snell. I think that would be pretty cool if they were able to land him and then they can trade one of these other starters and try and land themselves a bat. I think that'd be great. And even if you weren't able to do that, could you imagine the rotation there? I mean, good grief. You'd have Castillo, Kirby, Gilbert, Snell, Miller, Woo. I mean, good grief. Like, that is just a stacked rotation. Don't see that happening, but who knows? Maybe the Mariners could be involved, especially if Snell would like to go there. So we'll have to keep an eye out for that. And let's move on here. Let's move on. And we actually have another super chat coming in. Connor Gray, how you doing? $1.99. I say Soto gets traded to the Mariners. That would be great for them. I could see them doing that maybe. However, the extension is what I worry about. I feel like with Soto, to me, and I feel like I've said this repeatedly, I think the team that trades for him, if he does end up getting traded, now there's some reports out there that maybe the Padres aren't as high on trading him because it's not in their DNA. I feel like I think Heyman tweeted that a little earlier. I don't know. To me, it just seems logical to trade him with how much money they're going to have to pay him and if they want to cut payroll. To me, the team that trades for him has to have a good chance at signing him to an extension. And to me, that team is the Yankees, right? That's why I would consider the Mets a candidate, right? Even if they are going through a slight retool kind of a year, I could see them doing it, right? Because then they do, in my opinion, have a real chance of signing him to an extension. So I think the Mariners would be great. They could definitely use a bat like his, for sure. But I just don't know if they pull the trigger on it, honestly. Oh, yeah, and Dulcie Maris. Robbie Ray. I forgot about Robbie Ray. My goodness. So, there's one example. Goodness, that is where that right there is, wow, I completely forgot about Robbie Ray. Goodness, he was gone for this whole year, and to me is like completely out of my mind. So yes, Robbie Ray is an exception where they have signed a guy, right? Do they do that again though? I don't know. To me, I just feel like now that you bring up Robbie Ray, good grief, how did I forget a fellow Robbie? Goodness gracious, that's like out of sight, out of mind. Completely forgot about Robbie Ray. You could have told me Robbie Ray retired, and I would have believed you. Anyway, but yeah. Don't really see them going after Blake Snell, honestly. Frank Ryan, how you doing? $4.99. I have a bad feeling the Red Sox are going to be interest kings again this year. I don't trust Henry to pay up. Frank, I don't know. My gut has always been pretty good on the Red Sox. I've watched this team for a long time. I actually disagree. I do think the Red Sox are very motivated. right? Especially we'll talk about Ohtani here in a little bit, but they're a name that they probably won't end up signing Ohtani, honestly. But the fact that they seem to be one of the possible destinations, like one of the teams that he really is intrigued by. We talked about the Braves the other night, but the Red Sox are kind of just floating around there. They don't necessarily, in my opinion, need Ohtani. It would be great to have him, but the Red Sox are really motivated, in not just my opinion, but many others' opinions. And when they've had their backs against the wall like this before, where they've had a couple of down seasons now, at the end of the day, John Henry, he's very up and down, right? When Henry has those downs as an owner, he really wants them to do something. And every single time, they've done something. Go back to, David Price, right? After losing Lester, right? They made a big move, bring in David Price, right? Go back to 2011, right? 2010, they missed the playoffs that year, bringing in Adrian Gonzalez and Carl Crawford. Obviously, we all know what kind of a year that was for the Red Sox, but you saw where they came off a down year and they did something major, right? Many times the Red Sox have made major moves after down seasons. So I do think the Red Sox do something, right? We'll have to see. I can understand where maybe the trust in John Henry has dwindled a little bit, but I think that is what motivates him in this kind of a scenario where he thinks people don't trust him, so he wants to win the trust back, right? Will they get it done? I don't know. We'll have to see. But another thing I think shows their motivation, obviously, bringing in Craig Breslow, and now that we're actually talking about the Red Sox, they look like they're going to be bringing in Andrew Bailey as their next pitching coach. I absolutely love that move. Absolutely love that move. He has done great with the Giants pitching staff over the last few years. Him and Breslow are close. That, to me, is such a great move. And I think that actually really helps the Red Sox moving forward in maybe trying to land a guy, right? Bailey had a lot of success with the San Francisco Giants, and now that you have him in the fold, I think that actually really goes in the Red Sox favor in trying to land someone out there, because Bailey is a guy that is very respected across Major League Baseball. So, and Ryan M., Yamamoto to Boston. That's a good segue right there. Let's talk a little Yamamoto. Thank you for the super chat, Frank, Ryan, and Connor. I greatly appreciate that. Here we go. Let's talk a little Yamamoto. John Morosi, this guy's been everywhere lately. I feel like Morosi has been leading the pack in terms of tweets being put out there, in terms of interest and rumors and whatever. But, and this is one I don't know how I feel about this one, honestly. Not the actual tweet itself, or not the thinking behind the tweet. Anyway, sources. Dodgers among the most interested in Yoshinobu Yamamoto, one of the top pitchers available this offseason. His posting window is yet to formally open. Like, when I read this tweet, my first thought, much respect to John Morosi, but what does that even mean? The most interested. How do you gauge that? Like, what is the ranking system behind most interested? Most phone calls? Have they already offered a contract? What does that even mean? What does that mean among the most interested? I don't get that. I would think pretty much any team that is looking for starting pitching, especially if you're a big market team that has money, that's motivated to add starting pitching, why are the Dodgers more interested than, say even the Mets? Who knows what the Mets actually even do this offseason? I don't think they end up doing much. Mets fans, I know, would love to have Yamamoto. Do the Mets actually see him as an actual option? Again, reports say they're enamored with him, but at the end of the day, do they execute and actually offer a big contract for him? I don't know, right? But what makes the Dodgers more interested than, say, the Yankees or my Red Sox, right? I don't get that, to me. I don't know what exactly that means. I feel like it's a very vague sort of a tweet. I'm sorry, it almost just feels like it was just kind of thrown out there a little bit just to try and draw some traction a little bit. As you can see, almost 500,000 views already. So I don't know. I don't know. I don't know if I would just buy it. Like, what does that even mean? And I even commented saying Craig Breslow and Andrew Bailey would like a word. And there's no bias here. It's just like, to me, I don't really see how you can say the Dodgers are the most interested. I don't get that. To me, that doesn't mean anything to me. Because I think any team that is interested in adding pitching is going to be very interested in adding Yamamoto. So, yeah, of course, the Dodgers will definitely be one of those teams. They need pitching, right? But so do the Red Sox. The Yankees could use someone else. I know they just added Rodon, but, I don't know. To me, I just think it's a pretty vague tweet. In my personal opinion, that's just my thinking, right? But also with Yamamoto, we've had a little bit of other news as well. We had Andy Martino, Yankees and the Mets, interested. I know we're all getting sick of the word interested. We all just want someone to sign. We all want someone to do something. But I all warned you when we did our offseason preview stream. I did warn all of you, it could be a slow start because I think Ohtani needs to be the domino that falls, right? And this is why you're seeing these reports out there that Ohtani wants to get signed before the winter meetings, and he's even thought about maybe even signing a shorter deal. And why I personally do think Ohtani already even knows where he's going, but I think he's kind of just going through the process. He's hearing teams out, seeing if anyone can change his mind. I do think personally he already knows, right? He has a team circled. He's got his bags packed. He's already maybe even got somewhere to live on his mind. I think he's already pretty set in stone, but I think he wants to hear the pitches from the other teams, right, to see if they can change his mind. All right, we'll talk about Ohtani here in a little bit, but I don't know how Ohtani even came up. How did Ohtani even come up here? My brain is not working. Anyway, Yamamoto, the Yankees and the Mets, serious interest. I've been seeing a lot of reports as well that there could be a bidding war between these two. I don't know. I said it a second ago. I don't know how far the Mets will go to landing him. I just don't. I know it makes a lot of sense. I know they could use another pitcher for the future, especially a really good one, right? Senga and Yamamoto leading the way there. Yeah, that would be great. I just don't know what exactly the Mets are looking to do this offseason, right? They have the money, and that's another thing. I want Mets fans to really understand this. Yeah, Steve Cohen has the money. Obviously, he is rolling around in his money. He's wearing like gold. He's wearing like silk pajamas right now that are made out of gold, right? That dude is loaded. But listen, you don't become the billionaire that he became by just throwing money around left and right? It's about making good investments. Now, obviously, Yamamoto would be a good investment, but you have to also think, too, they just made some bad investments. Do they want to go all in again on another high-priced guy when he has already said to not expect that kind of spending this offseason? He has literally said that. He has been quoted saying that, right? So I don't know if Steve Cohen goes out and makes those moves again, right? And you got Stearns now, and usually when you bring in a guy, especially with where the Mets are at, where they really just want to look at all these prospects they brought in, and I think they would like to compete in 2024. I just don't think they're going to be so gun-ho about it like they have been the last couple of years, right? Look at all these guys they brought in. Look how close they were with Bauer, right? We all, the Bauer sweepstakes a couple of years ago, they were pretty much right there. They had Bauer, according to Nightingale. So they have been really willing to throw money around, but you can't just keep throwing money around, right? Cohen is not the billionaire he is by just throwing money around, right? At some point, you got to kind of put your foot on the brakes a little bit, or at least slow down a little bit. We'll see. I do think Yamamoto would be a great fit for the Mets. I just don't know how far they go. The Yankees, I'm almost sort of in the same boat, because I think with the Yankees, they need to add more offense, in my opinion. I think it wouldn't hurt for them to add a guy, right? But they also just signed Rodon, and that didn't work out, so I'm sure they don't have a great taste in their mouth over that. But it is Yamamoto. Obviously, this guy's going to be really good. So I'm not sure how much I buy into the Yankees or the Mets being able to land him. I definitely think they could, right? But when it comes to my rankings for Yamamoto, I personally put teams like the Dodgers and even the Red Sox ahead just because they need pitching more, right? And they have money to spend. So the Yankees and the Mets, I definitely think they could be teams for him. Personally, though, I think on a motivation level, I could see the Dodgers and the Red Sox, maybe even the Cubs, being more motivated. We'll have to see. So that's the Yamamoto news. We'll have to see what ends up happening. Hopefully we get something a little bit more concrete eventually. But we have a little something here. We talked about the Giants earlier as a possible fit for Blake Snell. And let's kind of get back to that. And there is a lot of rumblings right now about the San Francisco Giants. And supposedly they got their name in the hat on multiple players out there. We talked about Ohtani. Honestly, I think, to me, personally, this is my own opinion. My opinion is mine. I think the Giants need Ohtani the most, right? The Dodgers seem to be that perfect fit when it comes to checking off boxes. But the Giants, to me, I think need him the most. I think on a motivation level, obviously teams are going to be very motivated for Ohtani, but I think just when you look at what has happened with the Giants over the last several years, right? Not being able to sign guys. Harper, right? Going to Philly instead. Judge last year, right? Correa, that was more of a health thing, right? But still didn't quite work out. Basically, that just falls under the category where just things don't work out for the Giants when it comes to being able to add these premier guys. Look at Giancarlo Stanton several years ago. He wouldn't waive his no-trade clause. So the Giants, they have just been so unlucky, right, when it comes to bringing in a big talent, right? So this is why I went with them signing multiple players this offseason. I think personally they land Bellinger, and I think they land Matt Chapman. And their name is in the hat for both of those guys, right? So John Heyman's saying that the Giants are linked to a number of top free agents, including Cody Bellinger, Matt Chapman, and Blake Snell. Listen, that's kind of the way I think about it. If they haven't been able to land that one big guy, why not just go after multiple, all right? Go after some bigger names. I wouldn't call Bellinger, yes, he's a very big name, but he's not like Ohtani level, right? He's a very solid player. I mean, we'll have to see how Bellinger does this coming year, right? Very good bounce back season. But remember, he just came off 3 years with the Dodgers where he wasn't very good. Can Bellinger keep this going wherever he ends up going? But still, Bellinger, very big name out there. I wouldn't say he's like the top of the top of the top of the big names, but he's a big name. But he's not going to command the money like an Aaron Judge or Ohtani. Chapman, he's going to be a guy to me that gets like a 5-year, 125, right, kind of a contract. I could see something like that, 5-year, 110, something in that range, right? So I could see the Giants, instead of trying to land the one big fish, they settle for some smaller fishes. Not calling them small fish, but smaller fishes, right? Where they can distribute the money. And maybe even Blake Snell. That hasn't been in their playbook to really go after a big name starter, but who knows? Maybe that could be different this time around with Blake Snell. But it goes on to say here, the Giants, they're in on everything. They're really not happy with the fact that they've had 2 mediocre years in a row after that one great year a few years ago. Per Heyman, the Giants are one of the 3 favorites to sign Bellinger along with the Yankees and the Cubs. San Francisco has met with Chapman already and could lean on the previous connection between the third baseman and the club's new manager, Bob Melvin, who was the manager for Chapman with the A's. That was one thing. I'm like seeing all these like different articles coming into this offseason. Like, where could Matt Chapman go? Right? Could he just go back to Toronto, the Cubs, the Yankees? And I'm like, why is no one saying the Giants? Like the Giants, yeah, they had J.D. Davis, but he's not amazing defensively there. His bat was okay this year. But I'm thinking, why is no one saying the Giants? They literally just brought in his old manager. He played in Oakland for years. That's right near Oakland, right? I was like thinking, how are the Giants not viewed as a strong suitor for Chapman? I didn't understand that. I'm like, I'm going with Chapman on my predictions for the Giants, honestly. I feel really good about that one. Anyway, the Giants, I do think this offseason, I think they land a couple of guys, right? Could that be Ohtani? I personally don't think so. I think they really make a strong run at him because they do have the financial resources to do it, right? They got a very low payroll right now. They absolutely could sign Ohtani. Will he, though? To me, when I'm looking at the Dodgers and the Giants, from in terms of winning, right? The Dodgers have obviously been more consistent. So they win in that department. The only way I could see Ohtani going to the Giants is if they spend just so much to get him, right? They give him like an extra $50 million. The Dodgers offer $520. Giants say $570. We'll give you an extra $50 million. That maybe I could see, right? But I don't know, man. You know what would be hilarious in this whole thing? He just goes back to the Angels. God, please, no. Ron Washington, the new Angels manager, he said he would love to have Ohtani back. I mean, who wouldn't like to have Ohtani? Ron Washington, did we see the press conference with Ron Washington? That was awesome. Did you see that? That was great. He said they're looking to just take over the West. They're coming for everyone. He said it was just such a... it was just so... what's the word I'm looking for? Can't think of the word I'm looking for. I can't think of the word. He just said it with so much confidence. I loved it, right? He was on a mission. Love that. I think Ron Washington's going to be really good for the Angels. And it's going to be really good for their infield defense, right? Their infield defense really needs some work. One of the bottom teams in the league last year when it came to infield defense. I think Washington's going to be a great, great manager for the Angels. How far will they go? I don't know. But at least you know with Washington, there's a guy that's had success in the past with the Rangers. He's been with some good Braves teams over the last few years. I think Washington's a great get for the Angels. Anyway, Ohtani, I really hope he doesn't go back to the Angels. Honestly, please don't go back to the Angels. Actually, you know what? I think that would be some pretty big drama. You know, like at least like last year with Judge, there was still that possibility that he could go back to the Yankees. No one is thinking right now that Ohtani will go back to the Angels. I don't think anyone is thinking that. So to me, that would be some pretty big drama. But the Giants, yeah, I do give the Giants a shot, right? I think Ohtani will listen to what they have to say, but I don't see him doing it. I just think they're going to be better off going after some lower tier guys. I don't mean low tier. I mean lower than Ohtani. I don't want people mixing up my words. I could see them getting Bellinger and Chapman. Maybe Snell. I lean more Bellinger and Chapman. So look out for the Giants, but they definitely, just continuing on with my thought here, they really could use another bat. Honestly, even two. I know Chapman got off to the hot start last year, and then he went ice cold. So, yeah, I do know that. But Bellinger, he would be really good for the middle of this order. Chapman, still, say what you will about his bat going cold, but hey, still, it would be a little thump in this lineup. They only had one guy last year have over a 500 slugging, and that was Wilmer Flores, right? They only had one guy last year with over 20 home runs. They need some thump, and honestly, I think Bellinger and Chapman, this would be two nice bats to add to this lineup. It gives them more extension. Their lineup last year did not rank well. They were 21st in WRC Plus at only 93. Their overall offense last year was no bueno. I mean, my goodness, it was negative 53.5. That's when you combine the offense and the base running. So they need something, man. And to me, I think the better strategy, of course, Ohtani would be very nice. I think multiple bats would be better. And maybe, get Chapman, Bellinger, maybe another lower key bat out there as well. So look out for the Giants, everyone. Look out for the Giants. So let's get to it here. Before I do get to our next story, we got the Rays coming up. We got Ohtani coming up. I know I've already talked about Ohtani a little bit, but we do actually have some actual news about Ohtani. I will talk about that in just a little bit. But I do just want to go over our sponsor, and that is Underdog Fantasy. Talked about it at the beginning of the show. The link is in the description down below. That rhyme. Did you like that rhyme, everyone? Thank you. Promo code is HIDE. Gives you a double on your first deposit up to $100. And I did make some bets the other night for Monday Night Football. Hey, didn't quite get it done. Hey, football is not my strong suit. What can I say? But if you are into daily fantasy, you're into maybe winning a couple of bucks, go check out Underdog Fantasy. We got a ton of basketball action as of right now. We got Thursday Night Football coming up tomorrow. Who's playing Thursday Night Football? I don't even know who's playing Thursday Night Football. But you still got, it's the Bengals. Oh, Bengals and the Ravens. That's actually a pretty good one. So definitely go check out some picks there. And then obviously this Sunday, you got a lot of action. I guess Bill Belichick could be going somewhere else. I guess that's the rumor out there, that he already has another team set for next year. I don't know what the heck is going on with that, but I don't know. Anyway, but a lot of action for football this coming week. And hey, it's a pretty good game. Ravens and the Bengals tomorrow night. So I know this is a baseball channel, but go check it out. You can do pick'ems where you can go higher or lower. You can do rivals as well, where you can, have players go head to head, right? Who would get better in whatever statistic that you pick. You can do the daily drafts as well. So go check it out, Underdog Fantasy. And we are partners here with Factor Meals. Listen, I'm telling you right now, they're very good. I'm not just saying that because they're a sponsor. You're all rolling your eyes at me right now, I know. But with 50% off, that's a really solid deal. You can get 8 meals, ends up being around $55 for 8 meals with the 50% off code. That's really solid. And they really have a lot of great options. I'm telling you, they are rather good. And they save time, right? Just pop them in the microwave, done in 2 minutes. Alrighty, let's get to our next story. Let's talk about the Rays. And we got a little Tyler Glasnow in the news. And we've all been expecting Glasnow to be a trade candidate, but it does look pretty serious at this point. Now, I'm not saying a trade is inevitable by any means, but the Rays, according to Passan, are expected to trade him. All right. And we've seen the Rays do this kind of stuff before when guys are coming up, especially not just the Rays, but these small market kind of teams, when guys are coming up near free agency, they tend to make those moves. And small market teams, they kind of have to make moves like that because they don't have the financial flex to really just go after a big name in free agency to replace him, right? So they got to get future assets, right? We all understand how this works. I just got to say as well, I always love seeing the Devil Rays jerseys. Oh, they're just so good. So good. Anyway, but Jeff Passan stating Glasnow probably going to be moving here. And Morosi, he's been saying it too, so his name has definitely been getting some traction. Morosi, he was saying here on MLB Network, I think that Tyler Glasnow is out there and available today and this week. So I do think it's a matter of time. I do think personally you're going to see the free agent starting pitchers come off the board first, unless a team really has Glasnow circled, so maybe they could get a deal done right under the radar. But my personal opinion is that you're probably going to have to wait for Nola to come off the board, Snell to come off the board, Montgomery, Yamamoto, who we talked about earlier. To me, I think Glasnow could be that fallback option, right? So I wouldn't expect a trade tomorrow. Maybe if a team is just really enamored by him and they think they can go get him. Who knows? Maybe a team goes and gets him and then they go sign one of these other guys. That'd be a pretty good offseason for starting pitching. Now, Manuel Margot has also been in the news as well. His name was coming up. I'll get to that in just a little bit. But I do just want to talk about Glasnow's trade value, right? Can't remember if I've talked about his trade value on this channel. But there is a little something there when it comes to him. He's on that 1 year remaining, so he's not going to be super expensive. And he has the injury history, so his value has taken a hit, right? Compared to Burns. Burns would be a 1-year rental unless you sign him to an extension. But Burns has a much higher value because Burns has shown that he is durable and he has, been a workhorse kind of a guy. While Glasnow, on the other hand, not so much, right? The durability has been a thing that's held Glasnow back, but still a pretty strong value, a strong median value of 13.1. I do think with Glasnow, that's probably around the mark that you will see him get traded for, maybe even lower than this, honestly, because it is that 1-year rental and he has had the injury history. So maybe it ends up being like $10 to $12 million worth of prospects, or who knows, maybe in a major leaguer as well. So my prediction was the Cubs, right? If the Cubs are not willing to go out there and spend the big bucks on a free agent starter, could they just go the trade route as well and go after 1 year of Glasnow? I thought, I put together a trade, maybe like Owen Casey, right? Maybe him. You can maybe throw in a pitcher as well. Owen Casey, that would be a tough prospect to part with. But that's a guy I could see the Rays really wanting. Would the Cubs give him up for 1 year of Glasnow? Depends on how motivated they are. I don't know what the Cubs are thinking. But Owen Casey, the one reason with Casey is, you do have Peter Crow Armstrong there. You got Seiya Suzuki, right? So, and if they added maybe another position player this offseason, maybe they could think Casey could be expendable. I don't know. Could you end up just doing Christopher Morel straight up for Glasnow? Maybe something like that. I don't know. But Glasnow seems to be a pretty good fit for me for the Cubs. I think they could use some more strikeouts. I think the Cardinals could be pretty interesting for Glasnow because they really could use some more strikeouts in that rotation. So I would not count the Cardinals out at all. Maybe the Atlanta Braves, right? I know, durability is a thing that they are concerned about. So would they want to go the route of Tyler Glasnow with his injury history? And I don't know. But to me, I would think, the Dodgers, yeah, I'm sure they would love to have Glasnow too. So, because they just need pitching. But to me, I would probably put my top 3 teams for Glasnow being the Cubs, the Cardinals, or the Dodgers, personally. And there has also been some rumblings about Manuel Margot as well. And I guess there were some talks between the Mets and the Rays, according to Michael Marino and, how do you say this guy's name? Jack Auzole Haron. That's MLB Nerds, if none of you are familiar. I'm not talking about MLB Nerds. I'm not doing it. But I could see a potential fit here between the Mets and the Rays. Possibly they weren't able to get a deal done before the Rule 5 draft protection deadline. So, but could they go back to those talks at some point? I could maybe see something like this. If we were to go to the Mets, right? Looking at what they have here, you got Nimmo out in center, but you got DJ Stewart out in left. So, they really could use another outfielder, in my opinion. Marte had a bummer of a year last year. He was really hurt last year, very inconsistent. But I don't really see him going anywhere because his value is really low. And, I just don't think they're going to be able to get rid of him, right? Unless they eat a ton of that contract. I think Marte has a bit of a bounce back year next year, but they could use another guy out in left field. And when you're looking at Manuel Margot, all right, he's always been a pretty solid outfielder, in my opinion. That's a guy that's always flown under the radar a little bit. Now, if we're looking at him, Manuel Margot, he's not going to give you the most amazing numbers, but he's always really solid defensively. He'll give you a little bit with the bat here and there, right? If you go back to 2021, 2022, well, 2021, he was really good defensively. He had 10 homers. It was a little something. The batting average was a little better in 22. It was 264. Last year, you're not getting Margot for offense, right? You're getting him for his glove. However, the defense has dropped off a little bit the last couple of years, but he has the track record of good defense. So, he's only 29 years old. He can play all over, right? He's center and right field mostly last year, but maybe if he shifts over to left, maybe he'll end up having a bit better defense out there. So, we'll see. But hey, I wouldn't count out the Mets and the Rays coming together here on a trade. When it comes to Margot, don't think he's really going to have a lot of value. Maybe a couple mil. Actually, no, he has a negative value. So I was kind of right on a couple mil, but a negative couple mil. So Margot, it's going to pretty much cost nothing to get him, right? So yeah, I could definitely see him going somewhere. Could you maybe package Glasnow and Margot together? Maybe the Mets could do something like that. I don't know. I think the Mets, they could be a decent team for Glasnow. They could use another pitcher, right? So why not? Do Glasnow and Margot to the Mets, right? That way the Rays, they can get back like a decent prospect from the Mets. I don't know. There's a lot of possibilities you could do. But I could see Margot and Glasnow maybe being packaged together. So keep your eyes out for the Rays. We have a couple of super chats here. We got 300 people. Everyone, if you can, the like goal for tonight was 100. Are we at 100 likes for the live? Are we there? Did we get there? We did not. We're at 80 right now. If you can, hit that like button. Help us get to 100. But here we go. We have CRAZ951, $1.99 super chat. JRAM getting traded. Quantrill DFA signaling it. I don't think Jose Ramirez is going anywhere. I don't think so. I don't think that's gonna happen. Do you know how much it took to re-sign that guy? I don't think they trade him anywhere. Quantrill, that was a guy a couple of years ago I thought maybe the Red Sox could go after. Seemed like someone that it wouldn't cost a whole lot to get him, and I thought maybe that was someone Bloom would go after. But the problem with Quantrill, he doesn't have like the most amazing stuff, right? I think he will land somewhere, but I don't know. Quantrill, I'm not the biggest fan. So we had a move with the Brewers. I got someone in the chat telling me that the Brewers made a move? I don't know. Where did that comment go? I don't know where that move went. I guess the Brewers made... Robbie, there was just a Brewers trade. What was this trade? Also, Pat Murphy is the new Brewers manager. What was the trade? It probably was nothing substantial. Anyway. But... we have one more story to talk about. Actually, no, we got two more stories to talk about. I'm going to save Ohtani for last. Let's talk a little Tim Anderson. And according to Russell Dorsey, let me just double check who Russell Dorsey is, National MLB Insider for Stadium and Apple TV Plus. He does the Friday Night Baseball on Apple TV. But he is saying, according to his sources, that Tim Anderson is open to playing either short or second. And I think that's a good move from Tim Anderson. Right? He had a really down year last year, but I think a team, if they see him as a bounce-back candidate, really get him going again, I could maybe see something like that. That could open up the possibility, maybe the Red Sox, right? The Red Sox do need a second baseman. Could they bring him in? We'll have to see. But... with Anderson, one team that has shown some interest are the Angels, according to Bob Nightingale. And not just interest, strong interest, right? And Anderson, he said in an interview with Scott Merkin, really at this point, it doesn't matter. I'm a shortstop, second baseman. It's whatever to allow my career to keep going. I'm not going to wrestle with the team that I'm this or I'm that. It's just an honor and a blessing to fit in any lineup as a starter, considering how hard this game is. Short would be my first choice, but I also understand how older guys are viewed now that I'm stepping into that phase, which sucks and is different. I just want to continue to keep building on what I started and get back to what I used to be. Now, Anderson did pick it up a little bit with the bat last year at one point after the All-Star break, but overall, the year he had just was not good. So could maybe a team like the Angels, right, get him back on track? I think it's just a matter of what teams think they can get a lot out of Tim Anderson, right? Could you maybe see a team like the Dodgers, right? Tim Anderson and the Dodgers, they've been connected, right? Look what they did with Jason Hayward. They really got a lot out of him. Could you see maybe Tim Anderson going somewhere like that? It's possible, right? Again, the Red Sox, that's a team that could use a second baseman. So, but look out for Tim Anderson, everyone. Look out for Tim Anderson. So, there we go. There's the trade. I tried looking for the trade, everyone. It wasn't popping up. Abraham Toro to the A's. Look at the A's. I like that. Abraham Toro is a guy that I've wondered about him in the past because, he has shown some good advanced numbers. And I wonder if, God, could you imagine he gets it really going with the A's? This is what the A's do, man. They get these guys, and then they're able to figure something out with them. Could you imagine the A's end up being a pretty fun story next year after all this turmoil, end up being a decent team? Probably not, but can they do something with Toro? We'll have to see. But here's our last story of the night, everyone, and it's not really a team that's showing interest in Ohtani. It's not really, he's getting close to signing anywhere, but I do think it is pretty interesting to talk about. Team meetings are to be kept secret in wild bidding war for the two-way superstar. I actually really like this, and I wish it was more like this, to be completely honest. If you want my honest opinion about, free agency and meetings and whatnot, I do wish they were a bit more private, right? Because you're always seeing like, oh, this team interest. I get it. Teams use the media to try and, try to drive the price up. I understand it. But with Ohtani, I'm glad that him and his camp have been like, no, we're not doing that. You keep our name out of the media. And here's one thing here from Passan. If visits between Ohtani and a team are reported publicly, it will be held against the team, so the circles will be tiny and tight. So that means another team trying to drive up the price or anything, they don't want anyone reporting anything about Ohtani. And I love that. I think that's honestly a great move. And I think, to me, because you've never seen a player like this, and that sounds, again, like something Ohtani would want. Ohtani has always come off to me, obviously, I've never met the guy. I never will, most likely. That would be a dream come true if I could shake that man's hand one day. That would be amazing. But he comes off to me based off of, interviews and, talking with the media and whatnot. He's always come off as a very respectful person, and he has values that are important to him. And I've talked about this a couple of times where he wants to try and get signed, and I think that's because he wants to figure out where he's going. But I also think, personally, if you were to ask him, I do think he would agree, where I think he wants to get signed so it can allow, all the other guys out there to try and get signed too, because he's a massive contract, whatever he ends up signing, even if it's a short deal, long deal, it's going to be massive. So he wants to get off the market, not just for him, but for everyone else too. And that, to me, I think that goes to his values personally, and the respect that he has for other players across the league. And I think, to me, he just doesn't want this becoming a media thing. It's the complete opposite of what Trevor Bauer was doing with the Bauer sweepstakes, right? He was so open about everything, which I thought was pretty fun too. Say what you will about Bauer, but I did enjoy that process. But so this means that you're probably not going to hear anything about Ohtani, right? You're not going to hear anything until when it happens, in my opinion. Maybe you could hear something like, it looks like Ohtani is close to a decision. I could see something like that, right? I don't see anything, right, where Ohtani is, leaning towards the Dodgers, or he's leaning towards the Red Sox. Could you maybe? I don't know. But you definitely won't see anything about Ohtani, met with the Dodgers, right? I don't know. I just personally think if he is wanting to keep everything under wraps, I don't even think you're going to see anything about him leaning a certain way, right? Except for what the industry thinks. People could speculate all they want. And most people across the industry have been expecting the Dodgers. So let me actually pull up here with Ohtani. Another story that I forgot to pull up. And there is one thing that Passan reported. It's behind the paywall, so I'm not able to pull it up. But here is the quote. So, Passan reported yesterday that he has expressed affinity for certain teams and cities in the past. The Dodgers, Rangers, and Red Sox are 3 such teams. The Dodgers, Rangers, and Red Sox are all expected to be in the Ohtani sweepstakes, and though the industry's overwhelming expectation that is that he winds up with the Dodgers, that line of thinking is perhaps presumptive. Now, with the Dodgers, right, in that article with Passan, he just says he really likes the way that he loves the way that they develop players. He loves the way that they manage everything. So he enjoys what the Dodgers are as an organization. With the Rangers, he has a big respect for the Rangers, not just because they won the World Series, but they showed very strong interest in him back before he signed with the Angels, right? So there was that he, thinks back to. And with the Red Sox, the big thing is that he loves going to Fenway Park and he loves the city. To me, if I'm ranking those 3 teams, you're easily putting the Dodgers at the top based off of what they said, right? I'm not ranking most likely teams, but based off of the reasons why he has affinity for those teams, the Dodgers go right to the top because there was an interest in an affinity in how their organization is just run, the way they have player development, the way they manage their players, right? The way everything is just, say what you will about the Dodgers in the playoffs, but, every year they're just a juggernaut, right? They win every single year. So, and he respects that. With the Rangers, right? They had, obviously, going back to when he signed, with the Angels, they had to have had a really strong presentation, and they really wanted him. So that, to me, that comes off to me like he hasn't forgotten about that, right? Could that come into play? And then the Red Sox would come third for me out of those 3 teams because it's simply he likes going to Fenway Park. He likes the city. New Balance is also there. But he can always go to Fenway as an opposing player, right? He can always, when he has the Red Sox in Boston, he can circle it, right? Be like, all right, I'm looking forward to that weekend. I love Boston. I love Fenway, right? So he doesn't necessarily need to go to the Red Sox, right? I think the Red Sox will put a strong pitch for him, personally, just because of how motivated they are. But in my opinion, I think a lot of people would agree, they need pitching more than Ohtani. I would love to have Ohtani, but he's a luxury, in my opinion, for the Red Sox, where other teams could really use him, right? The Giants, they're in on him as well. I think they need him the most. The Cubs, they definitely could use him, all right? Dodgers, in the end, just make the most sense, and I think most people agree, which is why it would be hilarious if he just went back to the Angels. That would be the most funny thing, in my opinion. But, everyone, I'm going to wrap this up. I'm going to get it going. And everyone, I want to thank you for stopping by tonight. It's always great talking rumors, talking news. Still over 300 of you here in the chat listening to my potato face. Always enjoy having you guys come around. And everyone, if you can on the way out, hit the like button for me. That'll help out with the algorithm for people to see the replay. Hit the bell notification. I do have a video coming out. Honestly, now that it's almost 10 o'clock, I'll probably put the video out tomorrow, considering the MVP will be released tomorrow. So look out for that tomorrow. It's a little late for me to upload. I don't know. Maybe I will upload it. I'll see how I feel. But in the meantime, if you can, share the show, share the channel. And if you are new, subscribe down below. Again, we've been having a lot of new subscribers lately. Do want to thank all of the new subscribers for coming on in. All of the subscribers that have been with us from the very beginning. Always love to see your friendly faces. I'm out of here, everyone. Go have yourself a good rest of your night. Go get some rest. Hopefully, we get something concrete tomorrow. Either way, I'm sure we'll have some news. If we have enough news and rumors, we will talk about it live here on the channel. And so stay tuned. Everyone, have yourself a great night, and
I'll talk to you next time.